Hello, welcome to Frontline. I am Obiora Ilo. Well, today on our program, we'll be first looking at the recent security developments, especially in just Nigeria, and what are the likely things that our security agencies have to do to see how they can make this situation better. We'll be talking to very distinguished delegates at the national conference, and we'll be looking at Nigeria's future. We'll also be looking at how some of the decisions they have reached, how those decisions were reached, and how they are being debated at the ongoing national conference. And finally on our program today, a very distinguished journalist has put together his memoir. Orji, Ogbonnaya Orji, is a broadcast journalist who has done so many other things. I will be talking to him today about his new book, What They Did Not Teach You in Broadcasting. Glad to know you're here. But right in the studio, I have Obol Patrick Okomiso. Obol Patrick Okomiso is a public affairs analyst with special bias on security. You're welcome.
Thank you, Obiora Ilo. How are you?
Well, a lot of Nigerians are concerned about this unceasing bomb blasts, shootings, killings here and there. Is there any hope that these things will be resolved very soon, especially with the help we are getting from the outside, with the intensification of the work of our security forces? Is there hope for the ordinary Nigerian that something will happen and happen very soon?
Yes, but I think we should look at it from this point, Obiora. This issue is terrorism, or whatever name we have to give it, insurgency, is the world all over. It's a phenomenon of the whole world. It's not only in Nigeria. If you get up early in the morning and you tune to your television station, either AIT, BBC, Sky News, or CNN, the first thing you hear is about terrorism attacks. So it's a world phenomenon. It's not particularly to Nigeria alone. And what is happening in Nigeria, though there's some issues that we have to think about. Our own has been homegrown. But today, it has gone internationalized because it has had an affiliation with other terrorist groups in the world, Al-Qaeda and the rest. So today, we shouldn't be looking at Boko Haram, it's Al-Qaeda in Nigeria. That is the truth. So let us consider it that way. And as why I said it was a homegrown, it was something that started from Nigeria, by Nigerians, in the particular region in Nigeria, and a particular state in a village, and everybody knows who was it from the beginning. So it gives a more different dimensions, and the dimensions are that, and what is what I want to tell you, we have to be very careful. We should not say everything on the president, good luck Jonathan, president, good luck Jonathan. No. We know how this thing started. People sponsor this thing. And today it has gone to this level. It is not more about Jonathan. It is not more about opposition. When you see, you begin to know what is happening in Nigeria with the newspapers you buy. You buy newspapers where you see the headlines, you know that this is opposition. This insurgency, terrorism, there is no opposition. No. We should all be comfortable to actively support the president and commander-in-chief to fight this terrorism. Otherwise, if we don't take that steps, this station will fall inside well.
Okay, you know, I was reading an article in the papers by some international scholars, and they said something like 200 girls kidnapped. And when we saw them on TV, you saw them with the dresses made for them. And they're saying that there are some little telltales that our security agencies could follow. A man comes into the market around Chibok or wherever, you understand, and starts buying these bales of clothes. Somebody should follow a trail like that. Is it that our security agencies are not paying attention to details? And of course, you know that these girls will be fed. Somebody goes to the market to buy in bulk to feed people. I mean, I read it, and some of these things they said looked very, very important to me if our security agencies, our intelligence agencies are going to bust this problem.
Let us say it this way and get it straightforward. Our intelligence had failed for a long time. President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan inherited a failed intelligence. We had a president before Goodluck, the late President Yar'Adua, may he so rest in peace. At that period, our intelligence had failed. And look, let us look at it this way. Intelligence of a nation that fails for 2 hours is like 20 years backwards. So Jonathan came in, inherited a failed intelligence, and begin to service it. So we should all put all these things together. But I will tell you one thing that you'll be very surprised. We have one of the best armies in the world. Our soldiers are very brave people. But another question is, do they have the right equipment or the right hardware now? Because you see, the world upgrades every day. We have very brave men in our army, and they have really, really done us proud in this issue. First and foremost, look at this, that this is an issue that just came into Nigeria. Nigeria was never ready for terrorism because we all lived like brothers and sisters. We all lived like one people. So this is a new thing. But what we need to do at this point in time is that every one of us should be a policeman to each other. Should be an intelligent man to each other. We should be able to give intelligence. I know that people are getting so scared. I spoke to somebody yesterday. I didn't know I was going to come on this program. And one of the things he told me that was funny is that people still get scared to give information to the police or to the soldiers, because when you give that information in the daytime, the people you give information for will come after you. So these things need to be overhauled with time. But I'll tell you something, Nigeria would defeat this insurgency.
You know, what you said is leading me to some other thing I want to talk about. Just like you said, you were talking to somebody. You know, this discussion goes on everywhere. You go to a wedding, everywhere we're talking about what's going on in the country. And someone says, yes, everybody says we need to support the president, we need to support the soldiers, we need to support our intelligence agencies, our military, and what have you. And every day they're telling you that, yes, we are doing something. There was a bomb in Jos. We are still battling with that. And yesterday again, there was another bomb. Is it that our intelligence people or the defense forces are not making proactive, decisions about how to, ensure that these people don't get into where our people live?
Okay, Boko Haram does not have uniform. That's number one. Even as we are in this studio, in AIT, you don't know your staffs all. You know everybody's by name, but you don't know which of them is a member of Boko Haram. That is the problem.
I don't like this example.
No, that is the truth. The truth has to be told.
That's not what you say.
Now, how do you identify who is Boko Haram when he does not have uniform? The only way you can do that is that we all live in the same streets, in the same houses and so on. When you see any movement that you are not sure of, either from your friend or your relation or your neighbor, and you quickly get to the police or you quickly get to the army. I think the army, now that you say the army, if you are afraid of the police, get to the army and say, this is what and try to do it not only in the army, maybe the SSS. I know the SSS has a department to listen to every person. Get people informed. Get your friends, your brothers informed. Say, I don't like the movement I see of this person. That is the best thing you have done for your nation. It is not the president that will go out to go and gather information on the street. No. It is we, Nigerians, that should police one another.
So the people should get involved?
Everybody should get involved. This is not a fight of the president. This is not a fight of opposition. When I listen to opposition in Nigeria, I get myself involved. Is it the same thing that is happening in Britain? I saw the opposition in Britain. When they see that something is going wrong, he will call the other party and say, hey, this is what we have done, this is what we have done. They will debate it. But here, our own opposition, there's nothing good the president has done.
Well,
that is wrong.
The message is you should look out for yourself and others. If you hear anything, you must let the security forces know. I must thank you, Obol Patrick Okomiso, Public Affairs Analyst. Thanks for coming. When we return, we'll be going to the national conference, and I have very distinguished delegates here with me. Don't go away.
Was invented. It was not only to entertain, but to tell stories of heroes on the pains of the weak. To reveal the big secrets and report the little things that matter. To unveil the complex issues and bring reports of events and personalities that shape our lives. Open your mind to true television with Frontline. Hot, incisive, in-depth, straight to the point. Frontline, wherever the news is.
Glad to know you're still with us on Frontline, your Sunday show. And joining me now is Chief Dr. Silas Yaneyo. He's a delegate to the National Conference representing the South Zone. You're welcome. And I also have the great Gigi Dara. Gigi Dara is a delegate. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Hello.
One of the things that greeted the committee work was the suggestion by some Nigerians that some of the reasons that informed what most of the committees came out with were influenced by ethnicity, personal interest, and all that. And part of what we want to do today is you were in a committee, and you were in a committee. Would you share with us what transpired, how some decisions came to be? Because a lot of Nigerians will really want to know.
Well, the perception that parochial views influence the committees is completely wrong. And these views are paraded by the media, which makes it very, very unfortunate. Because the media is supposed to be the one that should channel the truth. In my committee, which is a Committee on Devolution of Power, we engage in very, very rigorous analysis of all the issues that were given to us to analyze and debate on. One of them was federalism. We should define it, what constitutes it, who federates, federal government and state government. That's what we reached. No local government. There's no federal government in the world where you have 3 tiers of government. So we debated for almost a week. Went to all the scholarship. Professor Weir of America, that is the authority on federalism. And we unveiled it. Where did Nigerian one come from? From the military. The military have gone. Let's restore democracy in its truer form. So our recommendation on that is Nigeria shall be a federal government constituting of a central government based in Abuja and states. There are 36 states now. The number may increase, but only federal and state government will federate. What does that mean? That if you are sharing resources, the resources will be shared by the federal and the state alone. But a state may decide to have 200 local governments. And that is how it is in the Constitution, Section 7. Section 7 says all local government affairs are to be conducted by law made by the State Assembly. So it was an aberration that the military was paying local government directly from Abuja here. Our committee has settled that. That's not parochial, that is science at its best. We discussed fiscal federalism too. Because once you discuss the political federalism, you go to the economic federalism. What is the economy of this relationship? And Professor Weir of America, in the 40s, who defined this thing, says that the central government and the federated units are co-equals. It's not a hierarchy. If they are co-equals, then they should have equal access to the available resources. So what we have in Nigeria, because we had the misfortune of 30 years of military despotism, who had no regard. They were anti-federal. We need not go into that now. We inherited that burden. And the good thing about this conference is that a civilian president who has seen the aberrations and the whole distortion, and I found it's impossible to govern Nigeria under the present arrangement unless you're a dictator. So we elect there not to be dictators, but to be democrats.
Okay.
So that's why the conference now is evaluating and analyzing, reconstructing. What we did in our committee has been supported by the Committee on Restructuring. And the two committees are like twins.
Okay.
And those two committees, the outcome of their decision will influence all the other 18 committees.
Okay, Prof, let me go to Dr. Eneo. What kind of support services did these committees have? Because people are talking about the time was short, what kind of expertise were employed to come up with some of the decisions like what Prof said and all that. What kind of support services did you have in your committee? Which committee did you work?
I served in Environment Committee.
What kind of support services do you have?
We
Resource?
accepted memos from the public. We invited major stakeholders on environmental matters within the public sector and outside the public sector. We invited government agencies, we invited the Federal Minister of Environment, even the Minister of Environment, so we could tap into policy issues from the viewpoint of government. We also looked at the public operators, the private operators in environment. People came to address us, give us their expertise, and we also consulted a lot of records on environment. The environmental matters are scientific matters.
Did you have enough time
we did.
Really
we
address
did.
it?
We first broke up into 4 subcommittees, giving each subcommittee definite thematic issues, areas to look at. And they delved into those areas extensively and gave us a subcommittee report. And the 4 subcommittee reports were put together in a form of plenary by the Committee on Environment before we arrived at our final report for conference.
Okay. Did any of the committees had to go outside the country to get information and compare standards?
Not in the digital age. The telephones that we have, you tapped it, information flowed. We are luckier than those who were here in 2005. This is the number 17 constitutional conference in Nigeria since Lugard. And this one is the one that is luckiest in terms of access to information. Any subject you wanted, you just Googled. You went to print. Sometimes you arrive in the morning, there's a basket full of literature in front of you. Photocopied, the petitions that Dr. Salas is referring to, over 1,000 memos came from the public in Nigeria. Each one was photocopied. The one for environment, we give to environment. The one of fiscal federalism, resource control, derivation will be given to us. So we were fully served with information and literature.
Okay. A lot of states and zones had meetings before meetings. And that fueled this suspicion that what drove it was sectional interest, not the Nigerian project interest.
You are right, but sectional interest is Nigerian interest. Because we are being artificial. When you separate the interest of the welfare of a families, education for Nigerians, good health for Nigerians, roads and infrastructure, equity in the distribution of resources from oil and gas. Those of us from Niger Delta, that's our primary, because that oil and gas wealth has been stolen by federal Nigeria and distributed to areas of the country that produce nothing. So you can say, Obiora, that was sectional interest. But all politics is interest.
And local.
All politics, globally. If the Americans came here, they would talk about their interest. So we came here not with interests that are antagonistic to Nigeria, but interests that will make Nigeria more democratic and more governable.
Dr. No, you share his sentiments that those sectional meetings helped?
Well,
Yes.
to some extent. The sectional meetings were just there to articulate the common viewpoints of specific areas. And there are also viewpoints on Nigeria. Remember that this conference is to it's a reconciliation process. A lot of wrongs have taken place in this country. A lot of injustices have been made. And we are together here to reconcile ourselves. So the North came with its own agenda. The South came with its own agenda. Those, you may call them sectional interests. But it is true to some extent that these interests also influenced the final outcome of any of the reports.
Okay, we'll take a break. When we return, we'll be joined by a delegate from the southeastern part of Nigeria, Professor Obiora Ike. Don't go away.
It was not only to entertain, but to tell stories of heroes on the pains of the weak. To reveal the big secrets and report the little things that matter. To unveil the complex issues and bring reports of events and personalities that shape our lives. Open your mind to true television with Frontline. Hot, incisive, in-depth, straight to the point. Frontline, wherever the news is.
Happy to still have you. It's Frontline, your Sunday show. I'm Obiora Ilo. And joining us is Professor Obiora Ike. Professor Obiora Ike is a Reverend Father of the Catholic Church, but he's also a delegate from the south east of Nigeria. When I said he was a Reverend Father, Gigi Dara made a sign of the cross. Okay, let me ask you, Professor Obiora Ike. In the first few days of the conference, there was a lot of tension, and a lot of people thought something was going to go wrong. What changed it?
Well, you use the word tension. I looked at it as people trying to get used to themselves and then get used to the procedure, because you are gathering 490-something Nigerians, best of class in a hall, so you needed to level them out. And that has changed because there is an agenda, there is a burning issue in Nigeria, there are issues to be itemized. This country needs, we might use the word transformation. Mr. President said it. And the issues on ground, therefore, are the tempo that are pushing people to really focus strictly on how to re-engineer this country and African people generally.
Gentlemen, I want to ask this question, and I want, if you can, a sincere answer. Do you gentlemen think that this conference is important and is achieving something for Nigeria? You know, when you started, a lot of people say it's a talk shop. We're going to blow a whole lot of money and nothing will come out of it. Sincerely, do you gentlemen think that something good will come out of this conference? Let me start with you, Professor Ike. You just joined us.
This conference is one of the blessings Nigeria has at this point in time. First of all, it gathers, you might say, the creme a la creme of society together under one hall. The burning issues of the country are on the table. There are 20 committees. They stretch to all the items that have kept the country behind. It's not a conference of politicians. You have technocrats, you have NGOs, you have civil society, you have clergymen, you have Nigerians who are not just politicking. They want this conference to bring out the best, and I'm sure Mr. President meant it. Members of the House of Assembly, the National House, and people in politics generally will be very, very happy that some of the items they couldn't solve are being addressed by this conference in such a way that they could never do it. I think this is one more chance that Nigeria has. We who are in the conference are serious. We want results. We're going to get results. We need goodwill from Nigerians, and we're moving forward.
Dr. Eneyo.
Yes.
You think there's a light at the end of the tunnel?
There is, of course, yes, because if you come in and see what we're doing there, forget about the shouts and non-shouts. We are likely to disagree over certain things. But the fact is that we are bringing out the issues that actually, like you said, kept this country backwards. We are going to resolve a lot of those issues, in spite of the question that we may disagree. But at the end, we are going to present a report to government that is completely a solution to Nigeria's political, social, and economic problems.
Gigi, you said that this conference comes with a lot of advantages, considering the other conferences, about 14 conferences we had in the country over these many years. How do you assure Nigerians that when you come out with, with whatever you come out, resolutions and conclusions, that there'll be a mechanism to make those things change Nigeria?
Well, that's a large question, but let me start from the question of the cost. The cost is very, very minimal. It's 3.5 days, at most 4 or 5 days of oil production, the 7 billion naira. It's almost the same amount we're going to spend in Brazil in the football. We're not going to win that World Cup, but we will do well.
You mean we're not going to win?
We will do well, we will not win it. So let people not say that 7 billion naira is 3 days oil production. And the country can afford to commit the revenue of 3 days for the purpose of safeguarding and making the country better than it is now. So as for what we will do, it depends upon the outcome. I told you about my committee. We have reduced the power of the central government, which was monopolistic and oligopolistic. How did we do it? It is the money that goes to the federal government that gives us the power. It's not the height of President Jonathan. The money, 56% of the budget, is held by the federal. With that money, you cannot but be a dictator. Anybody who is obstructing you, you can finish him. We have reduced that money. We have added 10% to the states. We have added to reduce and give it to local governments. If you add local government and the states now, you have 50% for those sectors. Federal now has 42%. That's a major structural change.
But why not add that you have to go for a referendum at the end?
No. Referendum is a different kettle of shrimp, not even fish. Take another one. The middle belt and the southern states, the 70 southern states, we're also interacting. What is the central issue? Ajakuta, iron and steel. You cannot have a country if you don't have iron and steel. You were having a program earlier, we were talking about that member security. Which instruments are you going to use to free the girl from Chibok? When you're going to buy every item, bullet, uniform, shoes, biro. In the other countries that do it faster than us, they are industrialized. We are not. You cannot use crude oil to go and free the girls. These are all connected. So one of the outcomes is that Ajakuta, Nigerian steel mill, become #1 industry. It is going to employ 10 million people. And we are talking of unemployment. So you can see that the conference is bringing it up now.
Okay.
They are linking it to Alaja, to
Okay.
Shogbo, to Katsina, to Jos. These are the rolling mills.
Okay.
They were shut down 20 years ago. Once you enter that sleep, the next one is energy. There's a committee on energy. Without energy, nothing works. Once you have those two out, the president they don't even require constitutional change. If you want to change the constitution, you are going to the National Assembly, then they will be flexing their muscles. These are policy issues. President will set up a committee on energy, tell me, how do I do it in 3 years' time instead of 10 years' time?
Okay, Professor
And we move on.
Which committee
you will be amazed at the outcome.
Which committee did you serve on? Or are you serving on?
I serve on the Committee on Religion.
What new things are we going to see?
Well, key is that there must be a distinction between the state
Government
and religion. In other words, Nigeria cannot and should not adopt any religion as state religion. We reaffirmed this position and enhanced it. Therefore, if I have to go on pilgrimage, government does not need to pay for my private religious obligations. I have to pay for my pilgrimage myself. I have to take care of that. Government does not come and build my mosques, build my churches, and build my schools. Because the religious groups have an obligation, and there are many of them. Nigeria is a pluralistic society. Government must be seen at all times to be fair and equitable. Therefore, there should be a committee or a commission of government on religious equity. Most of the problems we have in this country is because of crisis, and people have always instrumentalized religion for political purposes. The Commission on Equity will try to solve these things. And there will be many other, and people who use religion and abuse religion will be prosecuted by a religious quasi-tribunal that deals specifically with such things. The committee was on consensus. We had equal numbers of Muslims and Christians. And what I saw there is Nigerians are willing to move the next step, go to the next level, and build a nation, not just what the press and other people are saying. There are always cynics. But actually to move to the next level where we think we can build a nation we should be proud of, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come.
Anyway, I wish I had a journalist or somebody in the press here, because there's a lot of bashing on the data said.
I'm one. I'm a senior journalist.
Dr. Ene, you have the last word.
Yes.
Is there going to be a better future for the
is
country
going to be,
with the national conference?
Yes, let me take my committee as an example. Now, I come all the way from the coast of the Niger Delta. And we know the problems of environment in that area are devastating, that serious environment. But in spite of that, I still have to worry about the receding waters of Lake Chad up north. Because as the water recedes, the place goes into trouble, the people in trouble. There's environmental problem there. We have to worry about all these environmental problems in Nigeria, which nobody seems to care about, and which actually is disturbing our people. Environmental problems are part of what we are seeing about the herdsmen moving their cow up and down and clashing with other people and everything. It's because of desertification. Desert is encroaching. Environment is not being looked at. So many things are wrong. The environment is not in the Constitution. In fact, the Constitution does not even want to care about the environment. So when we put all this together with the reports of other people, and we present, and all these recommendations are coming in three forms. There may be some for constitutional amendment. There will be others for legal framework, for legislation. There are still others for purely policy. And we just throw that one at the president. He does not need the National Assembly to implement them. And so many of the things that are wrong in this country can be handled by policy.
Okay, I'm grateful and happy that the conference is still on, so you're still in Abuja. Yes. There will be another opportunity for us to continue this conversation. Sure. I'd like to thank you.
I can add that this conference will be a model for the world because we are 600 languages. The whole of Europe has 46 languages. If you can talk briefly and get results, you could be model for
everyone. Thank you. And Dr. Naya. Thank you. When we return, I'll be having with me in the studio a very outstanding journalist, Orji, Ogbonnaya Orji. He has written a book about his career and how he has done his job in the last 30 years. Don't go away.
Television was invented. It was not only to entertain, but to tell stories of heroes on the pains of the weak. To reveal the big secrets and report the little things that matter. To unveil the complex issues and bring reports of events and personalities that shape our lives. Open your mind to true television with Frontline. Hot, incisive, in-depth, straight to the point. Frontline, wherever the news is.
Welcome back. It's Frontline, and in the studio I have veteran journalist Orji Ogbonnaya Orji. Orji Ogbonnaya Orji has authored a book, the first one was his memoirs about his service at Aso Rock as a reporter covering the presidency. He has written a second one which chronicles his work as a broadcast journalist in the last 30 years. The book is entitled What They Don't Teach You in Broadcasting. Orji Ogbonnaya Orji, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Let me start by congratulating you on your PhD. How do I say it? Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So let's start with your PhD. What was your focus in that particular program?
Well, that program was also part of diversification because after our years in broadcasting and journalism, I also think I saw a lot of relationship. I began to develop interest in development issues. Development issues in terms of how does politics relate with the economy? What's the connection? And how would economic issues interpret political development? How would political development interpret economic issues? Is there any connection with impact to people's rising demands for water, for electricity, for roads, and for infrastructure, social security, among others? So I began to develop interest in political economy. And of course, my first training, my first studies was in mass communication. Then I veered into political science, where I had a BSc. Then I had to take up political economy, master's degree, and I began to be much more interested. So I took it up to PhD level. I finished 2012, defended 2012, and I think
well, congratulations. Well, and you've come out with a book, What They Don't Teach You in Broadcasting. What are you trying to say? The book is not out yet. I understand it will be presented sometime this week.
Yeah, it will be presented on June 5.
Okay, on June 5.
Here
So
in
what
Abuja.
is the book about?
Well, from years of industry experience and then also my relationship with the universities, I also found out very clearly that there is a huge gap between what we learn or teach in school and the actual work when the work begins. For instance, here in the studio, I see a lot of studio hands. The only people that the viewers or the listeners see are the two of us talking, and then you asking questions and myself answering. But beyond that, there are a lot of human activities going on. So I think the book, I became much more interested, having worked in various aspects of the broadcast industry. I began my career essentially in the administration department, and then I had to move to the programs department, and then later on to news, where I had I spent much more time. And within that period, I came to a conclusion that having studied mass communication myself, there appeared to be a very huge gap. And that gap is widening on the day. And it doesn't seem to me that there is an intervention to address that. And that's why most of our graduates in this field find it difficult to fit into the industry. Some are underemployed, unemployed, or even unemployable. In my current job, currently as Director of Communications in Haiti, I come face to face with these issues every day. And I think before I finally leave the stage, it's important to leave something for posterity to support this effort by the industry and the school to build a very working bridge, a functional bridge between theory and practice. That's essentially why I decided to do this book. And that's why I said, what they don't teach you in broadcasting. The content of the book contains essentially those issues that you can never know about except you work in the industry.
Okay, Orji, share with us one of the experiences you've brought out in this book about the job you have done. I mean, to balance your objective of, bridging the gap between school and practice.
Let's start with the career options available to young school leavers who want to make a career in broadcasting. I'm not sure there is extensive awareness about what they should expect. What they should expect in terms of career fulfillment, in terms of career progression, and in terms of career motivation. And even in terms of career impact to society. That's not very clear. And many of us who went into this profession were unaware of what the future holds. That is captured in the book. Secondly, how does the media, how does the society look at a broadcaster? Your name is all over the place. Your face is all over the world. Is the expectation of the society, does it match exactly, the reality that the personality defines? I give a practical example. The radio and television imposes some personality to broadcasters, which is either real or imagined. Some of these assumptions or expectations are not really what it is on ground. So we try to lead our listeners and viewers into the real world of the media, of a broadcaster, and in relationship with what the society expects. Secondly, what does the broadcast environment look like? If you're just a young graduate and you leave the school and you walk into a broadcasting house, what are you likely to meet? What are those functional departments, the do's and don'ts that govern this profession? For instance, broadcasting is a very disciplined profession. It's a profession governed by time. Time regulates every activity in the industry. How does a broadcaster program himself, his attitude and behavior to be able to fit into this kind of environment? What constitutes broadcast environment? How do you address yourself as a broadcaster to issues of conducting interviews? For instance, when you want a guest to come into the studio, what are the basic preparations that needs to be made?
You talked about them in the book.
Yeah, they're all contained in the book.
Okay, Orji, there are two areas, because we don't have too much time, there are two areas that I really want to talk about. You started as an administrator, you became a studio manager, you went into reporting, you rose to becoming a broadcast administrator, you were also a presenter. Then, in the intervening years, you went to work as media advisor to the Senate President, media advisor to the minister. We went to BPE and all that. How does your training as a journalist, how has it carried you on? Not only in the basic journalism job you've done, but also in these other areas that are related to journalism but are not core journalism.
They are all very coordinated. Each one leads to the other. So as an administrator, as one who has worked in the administration, though very briefly, I was exposed to how certain decisions are made. So when I moved into the professional area of broadcasting, I am more careful not to fall into certain rules and regulations, which people who never had that exposure will always want to, will probably take for granted. In the programs department, you will be exposed to how ideas become programs, and programs can lead to influence human behavior in society.
So
they're all interrelated. But then, in this particular book, I did not touch about my other area of media relations. That's going to be another book.
Another book, okay. And then education. I mean, you joined broadcasting as a work holder.
Yeah.
So what drove you? Why did you want to improve yourself?
At that time, the country was very, the environment was very fertile for knowledge,
education.
For
well,
education.
We're going to have more time
for education
to talk about the book you have written. Ogbonnaya Orji wrote a book, What They Don't Teach You in Broadcasting. That book will be presented to Nigerians on the 5th of June
at the Shehu
Yaradua Center. Orji, it's been my pleasure. And I say congratulations.
Thank you very much. Wonderful.
And that's our program for today. I am Obiori Lo in Abuja, Nigeria. Thanks for joining us, and let's do it again, same time next week.